For some reason, this Chicago Bulls team has an aversion to being 500. Every time you think they're going to get there, they have an opportunity to finally make their way back to 500 after that 5-14 start. They lose in a frustrating game like this. Not that it matters at this point. I mean, really, even if the Bulls do reach 500 at some point this season, they're still firmly entrenched in that 9th seed. They're too far back to make their way up to 8. They created enough separation, in my opinion, between themselves and the Atlanta Hawks that I don't think they'll fall to 10. So while a loss like this is frustrating, in the grand scheme of the season, it doesn't really matter much. Bulls are going to be a play-in team that's going to have to win both games to advance into the playoffs for a date to get swept by the Boston Celtics. Now, I saw a lot of people talking about this was a game the Bulls should have won, or that it was a gimme game. You even heard it on the broadcast tonight. They were talking about that. I mean, sure, the Rockets are a little banged up right now, and they're outside of the play-in in the Western Conference. But they're actually one of the hottest teams in the league, currently on a 7-game winning streak after this win tonight, and have won 9 of their last 10. They're also one of the best home teams in the NBA with a record of 24-11 in Houston. So I never felt like this was a gimme game, especially when you factor in how quick and athletic this team is. Those types of teams the Bulls do not match up well against. So while I'm disappointed in the loss, it's not like this was a loss against the Pistons or the Wizards. No, the reason I'm disappointed and frustrated in a loss like this is because, one, the Bulls, like we've seen so many times this season, messed around in the first quarter, didn't play tough defense, started getting frustrated with the lack of calls, and allowed 42 points in the first quarter alone. The Bulls suddenly decided to turn things on. They get focused, made better plays, took higher percentage shots, found themselves back into the game where they cut it to single digits after falling behind by 19 early. Again, always having to make up a deficit early on in the game. They come out in the third quarter on a run, cut the lead to 2, and then the Bulls didn't get some calls that enabled the Rockets to go back up by like 8 or so. Bad missed calls, by the way. Like, they had a right to be mad about the poor officiating. But then Demar DeRozan commits that foul in frustration on Jalen Green, where he kind of just runs up into him on a switch. Clearly an intentional foul. I would maybe even go as far as to say it was a dirty play. Green didn't even come into contact with him on the prior play for which DeMar was frustrated about the no call, just purely taking it out on Jalen Green. That was just not a smart move by DeMar DeRozan. I love DeMar. Without him, the Bulls would be in a bad shape. And he's usually very professional, good sportsmanship, but that was not it. Now, I did not think that it warranted a flagrant 2. That was excessive. I knew it was going to be called a flagrant foul because it was intentional and unnecessary, but having him get ejected for a play like that, that was a bit over the top. I honestly think the only reason he got ejected is because of what transpired afterwards, where the biggest goon and clown in the league thought he would get up in DeMar's face and cause a scuffle. Dillon Brooks is just annoying. Cannot stand that dude. I will say, though, I was surprised he got ejected as well. To me, the whole thing warranted a flagrant foul on DeMar and a technical on Brooks. That's it. I was glad that Brooks got thrown out of the game because F that guy, but also because he was lighting the Bulls up in what was one of the best offensive games for him this season. But honestly, the whole thing could have just been avoided if DeMar had just kept his composure. That foul and ejection changed the whole trajectory and tone of that game. The Rockets were already going on a run leading up to that. That just gave them all the more momentum because as good of a game as Brooks was having, he's still not the same level of impact player that DeMar is for the Bulls. And look, if this was the first time we had seen this from DeMar this season, okay. But it's occurred on a number of occasions where DeMar lets his emotions get the best of him, and it's very costly to the team. I love that he's passionate, I love that he wants to win, but you're the veteran leader of this team and you have to keep yourself in check for the sake of the other guys. Same with Vucevic too, by the way. I mean, he got thrown out the other night in a flagrant 2 foul called, and tonight started committing fouls because he was getting outplayed. I will say though, that I was impressed with the way the Bulls handled themselves to finish out the third quarter after DeMar got ejected, because if you guys remember the other night against Portland, when Billy took DeMar out to give him some rest in the fourth quarter because they were up 15, and the Bulls just forgot how to play basketball when he wasn't there, and they nearly blew the game without him. I thought we were going to see a repeat of that right away after he was tossed. But in that quarter, anyway, they actually responded well. They played hard, got some good minutes from Dalen Terry, shout out to him. But then the fourth quarter happened, and everything kind of fell apart from there, where all of a sudden the Bulls found themselves down by 18 again. Now, the Bulls sort of made this weird run with just a few minutes left to go. I believe they went on a 12-1 run in just the last few minutes, but it was too big of a deficit, too little too late, not enough time, and the Bulls eventually waved the white flag. The frustrating aspects about this game aside, though, you have to love what you're continuing to see from Dosunmu, setting yet another career high 35 points on ridiculous efficiency, going 13 for 18 from the floor, 5 for 6 from 3, was perfect from the foul line, but also getting it done defensively, had 3 steals in this game. While all of the starters were in the negative and box plus minus tonight, I was the only net positive in this game in his 39 minutes of play. All of the Bulls starters finished in double figures, even DeMar, who obviously left early, although DeMar struggled in this game. His shots just were not falling. He was effective in getting the free throw line, as he usually is, but 4 for 15 from the floor, probably another reason for taking out some of that frustration in a hard foul. Vucevic, I would say he had a good game if you're just looking at the stat sheet, but he really didn't. I mean, this is a game Vucevic should have been much more effective in, with Jabari Smith Jr. getting in foul trouble early, having an off game for him, and you let Landale outwork you and have the best game of his season. Now, not all of that was on Vucevic because Drummond was at the 5 for a period while Vuce was playing the 4 in the double big lineup, and for Vucevic, just missed too many shots at close range, and of course that 3-point shot seems like it's back normal after having a few good games shooting it from downtown. 16 points for Vuce, 14 rebounds, 6 assists. Again, not a horrible game, but this was a game where you would have expected more from him, and you would have especially expected it after DeMar was thrown out and the Bulls needed his offense. Torrey Craig had a decent game, felt like this was the first time he's been back from injury where he had a solid outing, was hustling for rebounds and loose balls, making the right plays on offense. And then Coby White, it was good to see him back, come off the bench tonight, look good. I'm sure it'll take him a game or two to get his conditioning and timing right again. 13 points, 5 for 13, 2 for 5 from 3. We'll see how he responds in the upcoming game against the Boston Celtics. And then, like I mentioned, really good minutes from Dillion Terry, who stepped in after Demar DeRozan got ejected. 17 minutes, 6 points, made some nice drives to the hoop, 7 rebounds and 5 assists, no turnovers, and was a +9 on the night. Really like what I saw from Dillion Terry and staying ready and rising to the occasion in this game. So anyway, Bulls fall back to 2 games below 500. Likely going to go 3 games below 500 as they have the Celtics coming into town on Saturday, although watch, the Bulls are going to win that game, get back to 1 game under, and then lose to the Wizards in their next game. But anyway, let me know what you guys thought of this game tonight. Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.